Dr. Jazz. Dr. Jazz.
I started doing these talks and like just so happy that people, I listened to for so long, like usually say yes, and I'm like, yay.
Well, we musicians, we don't do this to get rich. I mean, we have passion for this. It's just, we love it. We can't live without it. I always tell my students, when you're born with music and it's like a disease. It's terminal. You can't get rid of it. You die with it. So you might as well give into it.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that's funny, right? For me, it's like also practice or doing whatever at home every day. It's like a meditation.
Absolutely.
It's like I need to do it. If I don't do it, I get nervous, and I'm like, I actually feel it in my body. I'm like restless.
You're preaching to the choir. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, funny.
People told me I was doing a master class once in Amsterdam, and they said, "Do you practice, Jerry? Still practice?" I said, "Absolutely. I love practicing. It's like just exactly what you say. It's a way for me to tune up and be present and get my emotional body, mental, spiritual body all aligned." And they said, "Well, Chris Parter said he doesn't practice." I said, "Well, if I played as good as he did, I wouldn't practice either."
Oh, come on.
I got a kick out of that.
But by the way, since let's say nowadays, like, or this week, or what did you practice, or what do you practice nowadays? How does your practice daily? Practice like meditation look like?
A lot of times it varies, but when I was younger, I would have immediate goals, like learning my scales and chords. But now I'll practice scales, but in quintuplets and septuplets, or things like that. Or I'll practice playing some 9-note scales, things like that, or starting on the same note. So if I played, like, this is a hybrid 9-note scale, so I go.
Oh wow!
I'm the key of F. Then B flat. Oh, sorry. Like that. So I'll start on the same note and do all the keys and things like that.
You still find things like to do, like to research and
But cool. the other thing just articulation and getting it just to have the note come out exactly where I hear it. Trying to like the right mouthpiece and set up and all that shit.
And also about the sound. Do you also like the older you get? Like, of course you're older than I am, but like at least I already noticed it with me that I get more focused about sound and just playing one note. And
I couldn't agree more with you. You're preaching the gospel. Yeah, okay. I get it. Yeah.
Because that I'm more and more like into this. Less is more idea. Like, especially when practicing. Like, I sometimes play just like a minor second and let it ring. For 2 seconds. I'm like, fuck, man, that's beautiful.
Well, it's funny you mention that because Steve Lacy, when he was teaching at NEC, he said, sometimes I'll just practice minor seconds all day, just minor seconds on a soprano saxophone. He said, by the end of the day, the interval seemed so big, it seemed like a major seventh,
Yeah. Well, it basically is. Yeah. It's funny. It's quite cool. I like that.
Yeah, that's great.
You still spend so much time on your instruments already, and you still kind of get the joy out of it and small things, and I love that.
Well, I always think to myself, music is the master, and we're all the students. You can't master music; it's infinite. I could spend the rest of my life trying to play a C scale and make it perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is no.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I always find something. I started now with Eric Dolphy like 2 months ago, and I'm just like, I've always been a fan of his, like, and Ornette and all these guys, and I just started transcribing all Dolphy stuff, and I was like, fuck, man, he's playing the blues like incredible, rhythmical, and all that, I was like,
That's
damn.
crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's just.
What do you have a favorite Eric Dolphy record?
I don't know. I mean, okay, Out to Lunch. It's
Bingo. That's for me.
It's the
Out to
Bible,
Lunch
if you ask me.
With Tony Williams and Eric Dolphy.
Yeah.
It's like a marriage made in heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, he's on another one with Tony Williams, Point of Departure by Andrew Hill.
Oh yeah, of course. That's 1964. Yeah, I think. Yeah. That's one of the best records ever.
But I kind of prefer him with Tony Williams than with Elvin. With
Yeah.
Coltrane.
Yeah.
There's something about that just sounds so cool. Sounds like the record. Out to Lunch sounds like a record that could have been made next week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so contemporary. It's so contemporary. Yeah, Dolphy was also as a composer. I think he's all underrated. Totally. All these tunes, like, I don't know. There are some abstract tunes I transcribed, like the Prophet, if you know that, the Prophet, and Miss. How is it called? Gazzaloni and all this stuff. But it's
Gazzaloni.
So cool.
That's a great one. Yeah,
that one. Compositionally.
I sent a student a little while ago. Let me see if I could. I sent him a tune of
Eric's.
Eric's. Yeah, it was Bruce Gertz. Oh, let me see. I sent it to Bruce Gertz too, but a good friend of mine, bass player. Do you know?
Yeah, sure. Of course. I mean, I have albums of his. He's next on the list to talk, definitely.
Okay. All right.
No, I haven't contacted him yet, but I love him. He's such a great player.
The tune is called Out There.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
I have a flute student who's completely obsessed with Eric's Dolphy. His name is Will. I forget his last name. But man, he sounds so much like Eric on flute. And every week I listen to him solo, and he plays these unbelievable ideas, and I go, "Wow, I want to do that,"
Yeah. Did you ever check Dolphy? I mean, like some of his lines or stuff like that?
Oh, yeah. Of course. I mean, growing up listening to all that music, yeah.
You saw him live also, or?
Oh no, I never saw him live. No,
live,
I saw Coltrane about 6 times live. I used to see Miles live all the time with Wayne. I even saw Miles live once with Joe Henderson and Wayne in the band.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow. How was that like? I mean,
it was amazing. Joe just played on the standards, and Miles didn't play too much. He just, but one little section of Eddie Gomez. Joe was in the band for 2 months, and in those 2 months they went out for 3 weekends, and one of those weekends was at this club Sandy's, which was in Revere, a little north of Boston, and Ron Carter wasn't on it. Eddie Gomez was. So Eddie's playing a solo, and Miles sitting at the bar, and he gets up from the bar, and he walks on the bandstand, and there's a microphone right on the bass, and he goes up to the mic and goes, "You're playing out of tune."
Oh man, that's
rough.
that's rough.
Oh
damn. Did you ever get to speak with Miles, like, or did you meet him, or?
When, I'll tell you, this is a great story, man.
Oh, please.
At the jazz workshop, and I'm 16 years old, and I used to go there when I was 12, 13, 14, because they had Sunday matinees, and I was already into jazz. So from 4 to 7 Sundays, I go in to hear Coltrane, I go in to hear Art Blakey with Wayne. I'd go to hear this guy. I'd go to hear Cannonball, whoever. But this time was a night, and Miles is playing, and I'm walking to the men's room, and the men's room is in this little alley that goes on the back of the room. So Miles is walking out of the men's room, and there's not enough room for us both to pass. So I step up against the wall so Miles Davis could walk by, and he looks at me in the face. He goes,
That's
was
a
my
good one.
introduction to Miles Davis.
Wow. Damn, that's a good one. That's not many people have that probably.
No, I was blessed.
Yeah.
Once I
Almost.
saw him with Chick Corea playing electric piano, Wynton Kelly on acoustic, and Keith Jarrett on organ.
Miles.
Miles. Three piano players at one gig.
Wynton with
Yes.
Chick and Keith.
Yeah. Wynton didn't play. He just played when it was a standard, like on Green Dolphin Street.
Okay, yeah. Wow, that's incredible. That's amazing. Yeah, for me, it's just like when I hear this stuff, you seeing Miles and Coltrane. This seems just like.
Yeah, I never saw Miles with I never saw Coltrane with Miles.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, well, what about Coltrane? I mean, I know he must have been a big influence on your. I mean, in your playing.
I mean, at that time, Coltrane took all the oxygen out of them. His influence on everybody's playing.
Yeah.
Even people like Harold Land that didn't play like that at all. They went in that direction, Yeah, and of course, when I moved to New York, there was Steve Grossman,
yeah.
Dave Liebman, Bob Berg, Mike Brecker, Bob Mincer. Everybody's into Train,
Yeah. But when you saw him live, I mean, how was that?
It was,
how was that experience seeing him live playing?
To me, it was like spiritual. It was music, but it didn't have an ounce of show business. It didn't have any. It didn't have any. I'm going to play music to make the audience happy. This was art. It was spiritual.
He was like that, right? Yeah. I mean, with Miles, sometimes you smell the business side. Sometimes, at least I do. I don't know.
Yeah.
But with Coltrane,
there's no. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, he just didn't give a, Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah. But you mentioned Green Dolphin Street. I wanted to ask you this, and I listened to Nearly Blue, the last one, with Renato and Andrea, and it's you kind of surprise me always by how you fuck up the standards in such a good. Sorry.
Oh yeah, man, I'm a great fuck up of standards.
No, like in the best possible way. Seriously. Like Green Dolphin Street, I played it so many times, and Countdown, and I heard this version. I was like, damn, I never thought of that. I thought of doing it in 7 or whatever, but how you did it, like, I wanted to ask you, how do you approach, let's say, on Green Dolphin Street, how will you change it?
Okay, I can. Every tune is a different story, but
yeah,
I can
please
tell you how I did that one, and you'll love the story.
Please.
So I have a freshman ensemble, and I said, this what we're going to do is we're going to do a jazz repertoire standards this semester, and every once in a while I want to do a tune in all keys.
Oh yeah, smart.
I'm about 3 weeks into the semester. I said, next week I want Green Dolphin Street in all keys. Of course, the next week comes and they only play an E flat or C. I said, and they screw up all the rest. So I went to the blackboard and lickety split, I just wrote it in 4 keys, and that was it.
Oh wow!
I just wrote it so when it goes like, I put the melody up a fifth. So
fifth.
Yeah. Then instead of going, I go to the key of B.
Then it changes. Yeah, I love that.
Then I go to the key of G. Then I'm going to G flat.
Yeah, but yeah. Yeah, so beautiful. Yeah. But that's so every standard you do, it's like it has a different background how you approach it.
Yeah, I don't approach it the same way.
But it just happens, or you think about it, like how you will do it.
Here's another one. I had a terrible hangover one day, and I'm laying in bed, and I'm thinking, man, I want to do this.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I said, I wonder if that'll fit over giant steps changes. So I was laying in bed and I was going, I got up out of bed, like.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, I'm only the hangover. I was only joking about that. Had a slight headache, you know, and I got up and it worked. You know, little things like that, no big deal.
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, you've been doing this like for,
Well,
for 40 years at least, right? Or
yeah. What happened was I was doing the tunes, and just as a fluke, I said, let me get Nussbaum and Calderazzo in the studio, and we just threw this. As a matter of fact, after the first tune, which I thought came out great, I was so happy with it. It was like
yeah, yeah,
that was on standard guns. The first, and Adam dropped his stick, and we had to do the take again. At that point, we couldn't. You know, this is before we could. At that point, I said, man, it kind of took the wind out of my sails. I'll just punch these tunes out. So Calderazzo brought the tape to Blue Note, and they wanted to put it out.
yeah, yeah,
It was just an exercise, you know. I just wanted to try it out.
yeah, yeah. This Blue Note record. I mean, I want to ask you later also some things, but since you mentioned it, did you feel a change business-wise or no at that point, like that it got you more attention, more gigs, more touring, or not really? Because let's say we're talking about Blue Note, like Wayne Short or whatever, Herbie or.
No, I never got into that league. What happened was I did that record, and then the very next spring I'm playing at the Montreux Jazz Festival with Calderazzo. And Bruce Lundvall was there. He was running Blue Note. And he said, wow, Jerry, you sound, I really like the way you sound. It's about time we did your second Blue Note record.
Oh.
So I said, I looked at him right in the eye. I said, Bruce, do you mean that? And he said, absolutely. He said, call me when you get back to the States. So I finished it till I get back. I wait about a week because I don't want to, seem anxious. And I call him up. And he said, sorry, he's in a business meeting. So I called him the next day. He's in a business meeting. And I leave my name every day. So after 2 weeks, if he's in a business meeting.
Yeah, then you get the message.
Then I send him a fax. And I said, Bruce, remember our conversation? And these are all the reasons I think it'd be great if we did one. Never heard anything. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then I heard some stories about why, but.
Yeah,
I'm not
okay.
even going to repeat them because who knows?
Yeah, sure. Funny, yeah.
I heard he didn't. The story that they didn't want 2 Italians on the Blue Note label,
Okay.
And I'm one of those guys that I'll tell you another story that I can take no for an answer. It means nothing to me.
Yeah, sure.
What I don't like is being run around the bush. I ask you a yes or no question. Yes or no.
Yeah.
I was working Fat Tuesdays in 1988. Richard Stein hired me because I used to work at his club in Lakewood, New Jersey. And Richard was great. And it had a great turnout. Mike Brecker came down, Bob Berg, all my pals. And it was a great gig. And I called up the next year to get the same club. And this bass player is now running Fat Tuesdays. And he said, yeah, no, Richard's not booked. I'm booking it. And I said, well, I worked there last year. I said, yeah, I was here when you were there. He said, and I couldn't understand how a person with hardly any name would work such a major jazz club. He said, while I'm operating this club, you're never going to work here. And some people might think what I would be insulted. I could give a rat's ass. Yeah. I just want a yes or no. If he said no, cool. Then I don't have to call him anymore,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I hate it also. When you organize tours and, you send like 100 emails and then you get like 2 answers.
Yeah. I just want a yes or no.
Yeah.
And I don't take anything personally.
Yeah, sure. But it's just like, send me something or like at least that I cross you and, do something else. Or that's a good one. But, I just want to go a few years back, like really long back, actually. I'm doing this talk with Harvey Swartz.
Harvey, yes, man, it's my man. I love
him. And, I'm such a big fan. He's such an amazing monster on a bass. And
we're doing a live stream April 9th, I think, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, super. I have to check it out if available
He's
here.
awesome. Love him. He used to be my roommate, or I used to be his roommate.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that because I saw somewhere that when you moved to New York, you kind of hooked up together, and
Well, we
yeah.
used to play together in Boston, and
Oh, I didn't
we had
know.
a group. And then when I moved to New York, I moved there in October and moved in Regal Park. And I remember moving in, and there was a saxophone player, and I'm flaking on his name right now, but he's a great saxophone player. And he invited me to go next door, and I listened to him practice. I said, I better get in my car and drive home. But anyway, Harvey was so great. Everybody would call him, they'd call him for a gig, and he'd say, do you need a tenor player? You need a tenor player?
Oh, wow.
He was so helpful. He
Oh,
was
wow.
great. He was awesome.
But I wanted to ask you, like this early 70s, I mean,
Yeah.
72. You mentioned all these amazing players like, Bob Mintzer, Steve Slagle, Bob Burke,
Yeah.
Mike Brecker, Dave Liebman, I guess,
Yeah.
And when all you guys, how was the camaraderie between you guys as, were you like supporting each other, listening to each other and like talking and playing? How was this atmosphere like?
I would say yes to all of that. Steve came in a little later, Steve Slagle.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, absolute camaraderie, except for Steve Grossman. Steve was in an exclusivity club.
In what sense? Because playing with Miles or later?
Well, that.
Oh yeah, shit, yeah. Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
So
Okay.
because of that,
Yeah.
he was in a club by himself, and believe me, I'm happy I was never in that club.
Yeah.
But he used to come by and ravage my loft looking for a mouthpiece he could sell to buy some dope.
Oh man, shit. That's heavy.
But and hawking students' horns and all that. But we idolized his playing. He was
He was a monster.
fantastic,
Yeah.
a monster. But in that way, I'm listening to all of these guys. Love them, everyone. Steve Grossman, Liebman, Brecker, Berg, all of them, Mintzer. They're all killing, and everybody does it their own way.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah.
It's like if you spent the rest of your life trying to sound like somebody else, you're still going to sound like you.
Yeah.
So you might as well give in to trying to sound like yourself,
Yeah.
And everybody has something to offer, and everybody did it their own way.
I find this so fascinating because it's, all of you guys have such recognizable voices now, and I hear you. I put on your record, and that's Jerry, that's Mike Brecker, that's that was Bob Burke, or but all you kind of came from the same nucleus of Coltrane in a way, but still you found like so many. I love that. That's why I wanted to ask you that how you felt about that.
Yeah. I mean, again, Coltrane took up all the oxygen in the room, but we were checking out Joe Henderson, Wayne Shore, Sonny Rollins, all the guys.
Yeah.
Did
you also like jam together with saxophone? I mean, I know there was the lot scene, but like with saxophone players also. Or?
I used to practice with Mike Brecker. I'd play drums, he'd play tenor. I'd play tenor, he'd play drums. Wow. Or we just like show each other some stuff we were working on, and he was so quick, man. He said, well, before I could even get it out of my mouth, he could already play it. You know what I mean? He was quick brain.
Yeah.
Fast.
Yeah.
You see how fast he can play. That's how his mind was.
Yeah.
And Bob Berg, what a sweetheart. I love everything about that guy. Man,
such a shame. Yeah.
What a shame. And what a soulful person, a soulful player, a natural player, and a great human being. Bob, I love you.
Yeah, we all do. How about you? You had the privilege to play with him and meet him, and
But then I had this loft with that I used to play sessions. Rick Kilburn lived in the first floor, and I lived in the third floor. And this guy named Martin lived in the second floor. And Martin loved jazz, fortunately. But I had my drums in the first floor, so we'd have to walk up to the third. We'd play sessions every day. If I told one person, I'd say, Steve, Slagle, session in my place tomorrow. He would tell Lovano, he would tell Bill Drews, and so and so, and there'd be like 5 tenor players, 5 saxophone players, a bass and drums. You know.
That's so
Crazy.
beautiful, man. Jesus. Did you guys record ever this stuff like on some sort of thingies or?
No, not really.
Oh,
No, because this is pre.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was so incredible to hear.
Yeah, today everybody would be recording this stuff, you know. But I remember Grossman came by with Greg Herbert a couple of times. We played, you know.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, it's just, I've spoken to Bob Mintzer and some other great players like Randy Brecker. We did such a talk, and Randy told me also about this 70s scene and Dave Lehman as well. And it's just, for me, it's so fascinating when I hear,
Yeah, well,
this idea of energy, how it must have been like this. Yeah. But how was it? I wanted to ask you, like, speaking of your experience of New York at that time, how was it like for you getting gigs and getting involved in the scene, like through Harvey, I guess you said, like, also, but how was
I would
that
have
happening?
periodic jazz gigs, and they were few and far between. Be a few clubs like in New Jersey or sometimes, but we'd be playing sessions all the time, and I lived very frugally, you know. I mean, I don't even know how I survived really, but
Shit,
we
yeah.
did.
It was cheaper, probably, that's for certain, right? Yeah.
There's a documentary. It's called The Jazz Loft.
Oh,
Have you
okay.
seen it?
No, not, oh shit, I have
If
to
you
check
see
it
it,
out.
it's really great because it's exactly where I lived.
Wow.
This happened because I used to live on 6th Avenue, 819 6th Avenue between 28th and 29th.
Oh,
And this lofts, no, I lived on 821. They lived on 819. Like their window and my window,
yeah.
same, in the same side of the street, right? Then I moved right around the corner, which this Jazz Lofts talks about. Except it was a generation or 2 generations before me because instead of me being there playing, it was Zoot Sims, Phil Woods,
Wow.
Steve Swallow,
Swallow, yeah.
and all these guys. Monk used to rehearse there with his big band. It was
See,
right in the same place I lived. I didn't even know that when I moved there.
that's amazing.
When I moved in with Art Barron, the trombone player, who was
Yeah.
on the road with Duke Ellington at the time.
Yeah.
And our rent was $150, $75 each.
Yeah, you can get like 3 beers in Manhattan for this money now, maybe.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, but I want to, you mentioned all these guys, like all this creative thing that was happening around you guys,
Yeah.
and then I really want to know about this story, how you met Brubeck. Because it's kind of musically, I mean, with all respect to Dave Brubeck, I'm a huge Paul Desmond fan,
Me
but
too.
I was never, honestly, such a big Brubeck fan. He was like jazz music, and there's Brubeck for me. I don't know why.
You're right. He's in his own category. I don't
Yeah.
know really.
But how did you end up there?
Okay,
I mean,
I'm gonna tell you. So before I moved to New York City, I was playing with a avant-garde clarinet player, Bob Fritz, who went to New England Conservatory, as a matter of fact. And he had a group that I was in, and he'd have different people come and play all the time in his concerts. But Darius Brubeck did a few concerts. So Darius heard me play.
okay.
When I moved to New York in the end of 72, the beginning of 73, he called me up and said, "You want to join my band?" And because I'm going to be taking my band on the road with Dave Brubeck, my father's band, and we're going to have 2 generations of Brubeck. So I'll play the first set, he'll play the second set, and we'll go on and do 3 or 4 encores. I said, "Yeah, great, awesome." I went to Middletown, Connecticut, where he had a house, and we rehearsed there. That's where I met Perry Robinson, the clarinet
Oh yeah, yeah. I love
So
Perry.
somebody just told me this is in Perry's book because they read the book as I told them the story. So we get through rehearsing all day, and Perry and I are sharing this bedroom. He's got a bed in this side of the room, and I got a bed in that side of the room. So we're talking. He's talking numerology, and I'm talking astrology because he's into numerology and I'm into astrology.
Yeah.
So he said, man, you got to go to this Weiser's bookstore, the biggest occult bookstore in the world. It's right on Broadway, downtown. So he said, I just got this new book, The Water of Life. I said, what's it about? And he took out a glass, a regular 12-ounce glass, pissed in it, filled it up with piss, and drank it down. So I'm thinking to myself, man, maybe I should get in my car and drive back to Boston right now. So he said, yeah, if this totally cleans out your system, it's a healing thing. Of course, if you do this Water of Life diet, you have to have pure diet. He smokes weed every day. He's doing LSD and drinking beer.
Shit.
He's getting, but it's hysterical, man. It's like, what a story. What an introduction to New York life,
Yeah. Wow.
He was a soul that
Bizarre.
just the sweetest guy. Like one time somebody's breaking into his loft and through the skylight, and he opens up the skylight and says, he said, you have to break in. Come on, take anything you want. It's all good. The guy came in. He was totally chilled out.
Here, have a smoke.
Yeah, have a smoke.
Yeah. Well, but was it with Dave? Then you also was with Dave. You went to Europe the first time also,
yes,
like a major tour.
In 73. And
how was that experience for you?
It was great because we did, again, when I did the Two Generations, I got to play on them, not exactly like you said, my music, but when I played with Dave hired me, got rid of the Two Generations, just did a quartet. And then he'd play standards, and I really enjoyed playing those with him because, like you said, Paul Desmond's one of my idols.
Yeah, Paul was such a player, right? But Dave was probably like in Europe, 1973, quite a big superstar, right?
Yeah, big superstar. We traveled first, we flew everywhere and had good hotels and yeah, he was, a real professional. He never once told me how to play. He never said, I want you to play like this, I want you to play. Never said it once.
Yeah.
Just wanted me to be me.
Yeah, but I think that's why you usually hire a person because they're who they are, right?
Yes.
He had the feeling for
I
that.
would guess, but people always remark, well, you don't play anything like Paul Desmond. Believe me, if I could, I would. But that's not the way I play. It's not the way I hear it.
Sure.
But so it worked out.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It's like someone hiring you and, tell them to play like, why don't you sound like Mike Brecker, or why don't you sound like,
Oh, I've had people tell me that too.
Serious? No.
Like, I remember the first gig I did with Hal Galper.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm taking Brecker's place, and we're playing at Boomers. I forget what year it was, in the 70s. And the gig is from 10 till 4 in the morning. And the speaker, the sound system, it was Terry Masahino, Wayne Dockery, and Billy Hart. The speaker on the wall was this big. This big. So Billy Hart's playing so damn loud. He knocked his cymbal over 3 times during the first tune, had to keep keeping up, and I couldn't hear a note I played.
Yeah.
So after the first set, Hal says, yeah, man, I want you to try to play more like Mike Brecker. I thought to myself, what an asshole, But I didn't say anything. At the end of the gig, he said, man, I really liked what you played tonight, But
that's so funny, man. No,
and believe me, I love Hal Galper, and I've been on the road with him since then. I said, man, you got to get a sweatshirt with a big A, because he said, what's the A for? I said, abrasive. You're one of the most abrasive guys I've ever met. So he said, he said, just think, man, when you get through the gig, you can go back to the hotel room by yourself. I have to go back with me.
Man.
He's a great guy. I love him.
He's a great guy, yeah.
I love him.
Yeah, I love the record you did, the Cubist. I mean, I did an interview with him, and I think he's like 12 or 13 years older than you are.
Something like that.
And, he's still so much energy when you listen to his stories. And it's just like, man, you're like 82 or 81, and it's just like bursting.
He's ridiculous. Being on the road with him is like it's like watching a movie. Because he goes into it. He says he only plays a club once. Because once he goes in there, he insults, without knowing it, he insults everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, get this for me. The sound's terrible. I can hear you. Can you hear me? You know, things like that.
Yeah.
It's just, and you're sitting there laughing your ass off. He doesn't realize he's, turning everybody else off, but
Yeah.
he's so funny.
Yeah. You have such a nice connection musically. I mean, I listened to Cubist so many times, and it's so many tunes that he plays with the trio, and then when you come on top, it's just like there's a cake and you put like the most amazing cream on top, and it's like, wow, okay.
Oh man, I love playing with him. It's
So beautiful. Yeah, such a connection.
And I love being on the road with him too.
I can imagine.
So much fun to be on the road with.
Yeah, still doing it.
Yeah.
But Jerry, I wanted to ask you, like, one thing also. I have some albums of yours, but then I saw I was way behind on what you've done. So, because like since your debut, you've done like an amazing amount of music, which is so great. And but I wanted to ask you, like, talking about your debut, like on Brio in 1983, and talk about the band, with Mick and Bruce, I think, and Jeff Williams. And when was the moment when you decided to become a band leader?
Ooh,
and
wow,
how did you feel? How did you feel that you were ripe at that point to make a debut? Actually, I mean,
I actually never have. I never thought about being a band leader.
Oh wow!
I just I like writing tunes. I like playing, and I just assume play other people's tunes. It makes no difference to me,
Yeah.
I love playing. Like I'm going into the studio. I have to leave here at 6:00. I'm going and playing with Garzone.
Oh wow!
Bruce Gertz, and I forget the drummer's name. We're playing a bunch of Bruce's originals and maybe one of Garzone's.
Oh, beautiful.
I can't wait to play his tunes. I just assume play his tunes because he writes nice tunes.
Yeah, sure.
But I just, when you have a lot of positive energy, you try to make things happen. So that's just a natural thing for me.
Yeah.
Like, hey, let's get together and play. Want to use my name? Cool. When I go to Europe, they always say it's the Jerry Bergonzi quartet playing with so-and-so, with Renato Kiko and Andrea Michelucci, or with the Danish guys. They could put it in their name. I could care less, It's just, it happened that way. It's not even something I think about being a leader of.
Yeah, well, that's your one of the rare birds. I mean, like, because you then really put the music up front and not the ego, which is so beautiful.
It's just the music. It's a way to get the music out there. Whichever the easiest way, if you want to use my name, if that's the best way, do it that way. If his name's going to be the best, use his name. It
doesn't matter. Yeah, but for being a band leader, I mean, still there is some responsibility that comes with it, right? And it's taking care of all the musicians, taking care of their fees, hotels, dinners. Like, how do you cope? How do you cope with that? Like,
because here's the deal. That's why I misled you. I'm not a band leader. I don't organize the tours. Somebody organizes it for me.
Okay.
They organize what people get paid. I don't do any of that. I don't pay people.
Okay, that's good then.
I get paid from the people who hire me.
Yeah. Okay, that's good then. Yeah, that makes it easier.
All I do is take care of the music.
Yeah, that's
I write
perfect.
the tunes, or I ask them what tunes they want to play, and they send me their tunes. So that's how. That's how it's done.
That's beautiful. Yeah, but I wanted to ask you one thing. Is like when I check the players, also, on Mick Goodrick, let's say you've done a lot of work with him.
Yes.
And he's, for me, one of the best guys out there, and intervals and all the stuff he does, voicings and. But I wanted to ask you, how do you pick musicians for your different groups? How do you select? You've done records with like who's who in jazz, let's say, but
not really. But it's
so many. I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's who's available. It's like the question is, would I'd rather, when you make an album, would I'd rather do it with my people that I'm playing with in the present tense and have a band with and working through and breathing and living and eating music together, or do I want to go hire some all-stars who I never played with.
Yeah,
So,
I know what you mean.
so that's the thing. So most of the time I just make records with people I play with or people who I do tours with. So
Yeah.
we can go on and document what we've been playing.
So, like, let's say the record with Mulgrew, Lineage,
Yeah.
and Adam, and
Yeah,
that was a touring band, or
no,
actually,
that was,
no.
I won a National Endowment of the Arts prize, and I got the
Okay.
money. I said, okay, I'm going to make a record with this money.
Okay.
I hired Mulgrew.
Yeah, he's burning on that record, man.
He's killer.
Like
Killer.
Inner Urge. I mean, your solo in Inner Urge.
I never,
Man. I know, but
I can't remember what it sounds like. But let me tell you the story about that record. We went in a church in the echo was so loud. We thought, man, let's just get through this gig, go home. It's terrible. The sound was, but the engineer was good. He caught the sound, and that's what happened.
yeah.
But yeah, Mulgrew, I keep telling you this, he's one of the greatest. Not only does he solo great, but he can comp like.
Especially comping, yeah.
Yeah, he knows how to make everybody sound good.
Yeah, yeah. Such an underrated player also. I mean, like, it's
underrated.
Yeah. But I want to ask you about one record you guys did. I mean, you've done so many, but the Tenorist with John Abercrombie.
Yeah.
And I'm he's for me one of the greatest guitarists ever. And
I completely agree.
How was your experience with him and to play with him, and how was he?
John is a natural, and I love his swing feel and his relax. And I love the fact that it's quintessential John Abercrombie. He's not trying to sound like this guy. He sounds like Abercrombie all the time.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And he's got a great sense of humor, and he's humble, and he's self-effacing, putting himself down, he's just easy to be with. He's got a great sense of humor. He's a kind person.
Yeah.
And when he went, I was totally shocked.
Yeah. Did you guys play a lot? I mean, I know you played with Bruce Gertz a lot. You did like 6 records, but you played a lot otherwise with John, or?
What? There's a Bruce Gertz record with Abercrombie on it. I forget. He was just talking about it. It was with Calderazzo and Abercrombie.
Yeah.
And I've been on several tours with Abercrombie and Nussbaum.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. So much fun.
Yeah, it's such an underrated player. I mean, underrated. Also again, and I just
say some funny things. He said, "Yeah, I record for ECM. That's a jazz label for people who hate jazz."
Yeah, I've heard he was really humble. Like, talking about Coltrane, like that there was no business, this agenda behind it. He was just about music. Yeah. You can feel about his playing about that. It's just so mellow. But Jerry, I wanted to ask you, since we're speaking about bands, you mentioned before the Scandinavian connection, and Renato Kiko, he's Slovenian like me, and you seem to have a really strong connection with European musicians first. And how did this all happen, like through time?
Great question. Well, here's my joke. I can't get arrested in the United States, so I have to go other places, But really, those are the people that hire me to do tours. You can't get a tour in this country. The only people I toured with Abercrombie in the United States. I toured with Hal Galper. Recently, I've toured with Nussbaum and Billy Peterson out in the Midwest. I did a couple of tours with them. We're supposed to do maybe one coming up this year, but it's just about work.
Yeah. Oh. But musically, do you sense there's like a difference between European and U.S. sensibility musical, or no? Like musicians, let's say, nowadays, or if you compare it back maybe 30 years ago, it was different.
I think 30 years ago there was a difference.
Yeah, right.
Like I can hear more of a classical influence but in today's, man, and I think it's a shame in some ways. Everybody listens to the same 100 CDs,
Yeah.
and and everybody's getting close to playing the same way. Whereas even in the United States, they used to be like the Detroit sound, the Philadelphia sound, the New York sound, the Boston sound, the Chicago sound, the Kansas City sound, the West Coast sound, the New Orleans sound. Now it's like everybody sounds the same.
Yeah, for education system to maybe even also to blame or But what about audience wise? If you compare Europe to the States,
you can't even compare it. The audience in Europe is so much better.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. You can be in a little Italian town where there's 800 people in there, and the club is packed.
Yeah, I love that too. Yeah,
it's and not only that, they're packed with people who aren't jazz musicians. Here, the only people who go to see you play are the people who want your gig.
That's true, actually, right?
Yeah.
You go to New York sometimes nowadays, and there's like 6 guitar players, watching a guitar player.
Yeah.
Or students, no students. Shit, New York, no. Yeah. But Jerry, not to take too much of your time since you have the gig or the recording.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you 2 more things, which is like, first, we started with you arranging standards, and but I wanted to go to the original. You said you really like writing music, and I get the idea also that because you've written so much. What's your process when when you start a tune? Like, how do you usually start a composition? Like, does it come with a melody? Do you start with changes with it?
Every tune has been different, and sometimes I go back in time and say, how the hell did I even come up with this tune?
Yeah,
I have no idea. And some of them, I kind of like, and I said, I have no idea how I wrote this.
Oh.
Sometimes I basically what I do, there's a couple of different ways. Once I'll hear a tune, I'll say, I love that tune. I'm going to write a tune like that. And I'll think about what that tune has going for it, and I'll just start like that. And it could have been a fast 4/4 tune, and I end up with a 3/4 ballad. So it's just a kernel of it that influences me. Sometimes I'll say, I'm going to write a tune. I'm going to use 4 intervals, and that's it. And I'll write a tune like intervallic kind of tune.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll write, I'll say, okay, I'm going to write a tune that has this kind of harmony. Then I'll write the melody later. Sometimes I write a melody and harmonize it, so all of the above.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'll reharmonize a tune, I'll use the reharm, and I'll write a new melody to it.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that if you revisit tunes also, compositions. Yeah.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, since we've had COVID, I've gone through many of my tunes and have changed the chord or changed the melody. And people say, well, how do you do that? I said, well, to me, a composition is a living, breathing
that's
entity.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And what I felt about it 20 years ago, it's different today. I like this chord more. I like this melody note more. It changes. Yeah. It's like, man, I like this shirt, but next year I want another shirt,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's beautiful. You do it on piano usually, or like just out of hat, or?
Sometimes when I'm on the road, I just write. I don't use any instruments. Yeah. But when I'm home, I just sit at the piano usually and mess. I say, oh yeah, I like that melody note with that chord,
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. Okay. Well, one last thing. I have you on one record with Daniel Humair and Miroslav Vitus and Aydin Essen.
I was talking about that record
Edges.
Yesterday.
Oh, really?
Oh, 2 days ago, Wednesday. Because we went into Paris and we rehearsed for 5 hours straight.
Okay.
And for 4 of those hours, we rehearsed an Aydin Essen tune. And nobody could, I had a hard time, but Danielle couldn't play it. And I didn't kill. It was like it was all odd time signatures. He played it like it was a 4/4 blues, He was killing. But when we went into the studio the next day, we didn't even record that tune. Too hard. But Miroslav was yelling, Daniel, I am not dragging, man. I am not dragging. There's something wrong. I do not drag, man. I do not drag. Because somehow, in this French studio, every note that Miroslav played came like a quarter of a beat late.
Shit.
So it was almost impossible to play with it. I don't know how, so that was what that record was like.
Wow.
I don't even remember. Does it sound okay?
No, it's a burning one. That's why, there's this one too, Blank for Now, when I think it's the first one, when you start with Danielle and you have like this duo, and it's just like, and the band then comes in, like, it's just so burning, man. Like, how did you meet Daniel, by the way? I mean,
I think I met him through, I was playing with George Gruntz's big band, and Gruntz, Danielle was looking for new tenor players because I think Larry Schneider played with him, a whole bunch of different guys, and he knew Adam Nussbaum, and Adam recommended me, and that kind of thing. But he's a fun guy to work with. He's a colorful personality, very opinionated. God, but that was a funny album to do. And the reason why it's called Blank for Now, he says, "What's the name of that tune, Jerry?" I said, "I don't know what it's. Leave it blank for now. I don't know. I'll call it later."
Beautiful, man. Cool. Cool, Jerry. I mean, I have so many other things I want to talk about. Like, I'll since you have the thing.
We'll talk at another time. Invite me back. It's great to talk to you.
Thanks so much for sharing everything. Have fun recording and playing.
So
Thank you, Jerry. Bye. Ciao. Ciao.
Dr. Jazz. Dr. Jazz.